welcome to our fifth episode of the SGA Insider. Right now, we actually have a special guest, which we are going to be introducing here very shortly. But of course, we have me, the host, Senator Skylar Howell, with my co host.
Senator Andrea Gaitan.
And once again, this is
The
SGA
SGA Insider.
Before we start, I'm going to go ahead and hand the floor over to Senator Andrea to give a quick disclaimer.
Yeah, so the disclaimer is the views and opinions expressed on the SGA Insider podcast are those of us as host and guest and do not reflect the official stance of the Student Government Association as a whole. We are sharing our personal perspectives and ideas as senators, and our discussions are intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
With that being said, we are glad to be able to say we have our first guest of the entire program, actually, the first of many, we hope. And this guest is actually my intern. So, as you know, me and Andrea are in the FYI program, which is a program where senators are able to take in a first year student so they can learn about SGA, what it is, and pretty much how the university works and that sorts of things. And my intern is actually here, so I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself, Mr. Edgar Benitez. Edgar, is there anything you want to say to our listeners?
Well, I'm kind of nervous right now, but it's glad to be here. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome, Edgar. So the first question I kind of want to ask you, because you are our first guest, is what made you want to join the SGA FY program? What stood out to you about it?
Well, honestly, at first, I didn't know what it was until we got our first meeting. But throughout the meetings, I have seen that it's a lot of like the Student Government Association. It's like a big part here in the university. And I just wanted to be part of it and, like make changes in the university.
Awesome, Edgar. So, what exactly does being a part of this program mean to you? I know we're still maybe halfway through the program, but so far, what has it meant to you to be part of such a wonderful program?
That I can be like a change here in the university, that I can help other students like me as well, and just write some legislations and stuff like that.
Awesome, Edgar. And then my final question is going to be, like I said, I know we're halfway through. What are you looking forward to throughout the program, or even maybe as a future senator, if that's the route you want to go? What are you looking forward to finish off this semester?
Well, I want to run in spring or by appointment this fall. So yeah, I want to be a future senator and the part of College of Engineering, and like my my mentor, he's good at writing legislations, and I want to be like him. I want to write a lot of.
Thank you, guys. I did not pay him to say that on air, but thank you for the compliments. And with that being said, I also want to give an important announcement. As you know, today is the first day of early vote, and we will go into that a little bit later in the program. But just before anything, I wanted just to let everyone know, all our listeners know, it's the first day of early vote. Make sure to get your vote out early. It's important. Voting is one of our fundamental rights as citizens of this country. And no matter which way you vote, what's important is to get your voice out there. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and hop into a PSA and then another music break. And when we come back, we are going to be going over the Senate meeting highlights that took place this past Friday. There was a lot of important information and updates we look forward to sharing with you all. And with that being said, we'll be right back. And we are back. And so without further ado, as always, every time there's a Senate meeting, the week after immediately, we go over some of the highlights that took place. That way you as a student body can be informed of what the Senate meetings look like and what took place in this particular one. And with this one, we are going to start off with the advisor's report. And she reported, of course, we have been mentioning this in the past, that there are leadership opportunities actively available for all students. You don't have to be in the Student Government Association. It is open to all students, and these positions are for a student representative for the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board and a student representative for the Board of Regents. And the application deadline for this is actually Sunday, October 27th. So not a lot of time left. So we hope anyone who's listening who may want to be in a leadership position apply for these positions and hopefully get the experience that they're looking for. Once again, the application is due Sunday, October 27th, and you can always find this on VLink. And with that being said, the next advisor's report is that registration for spring 2025 is actually starting this Friday for priority students. So I do have a schedule for all students that are able to schedule for next semester, and we will get into that a little bit later. But she just reported to us that the priority students, those who made the dean's list or president's list or accessibility accommodations, the registration will open this Friday on the 26th. Next, we had the president's report. And for our Vice President Jimenez, she reported she met with the library. She also met with the IT to discuss IT Day and potential collaborations with them to celebrate that day. She had also mentioned that SGA had met with the athletic department to celebrate UTRGV's first swim and dive team in the PSJ Natatorium on the 12th. I know last week we had covered a little bit of the event, but our vice president just reported to us that was the discussion taking place beforehand. Of course, for our vice president Zuniga, he was continuing to review applications for SGA appointments. Remember, guys, you don't just have to be elected to get an SGA. You can always get appointed, and that's going to be through the SGA V-Link. And lastly, President Sines reported that she is still seeking applications for the 2 leadership positions I had mentioned earlier in the show with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board and the Board of Regents. We actually also had a guest speaker, the Colt Department, which spoke about a new program called Bright Space that is going to be integrated into UTRGV's system, and they spoke to us a little bit about the features and the resources that program offers to students. Next up, we have the standing committee reports. And for financial, this is a very important announcement. The fall SGA travel funds are now exhausted, along with the fall special event funds. This means if you have an event this fall, or you have a conference maybe your organization is wanting to attend to, unfortunately, as of now, for the fall semester, the SGA funds have ran out. However, you can still look towards planning ahead for the spring 2025 applications, and as soon as they open, we will let you know. Next, for the academic committee, they announced that they are looking for ways to increase attendance for the upcoming Meet Your Dean events and for our Senator Town Hall events. Of course, the Meet Your Deans event is an event hosted by SGA where you as a student can meet your college deans. I know a lot of the time you have to go through a secretary or different departments to talk to your dean, but SGA hosts an event where you as a student can directly speak with your dean, and we will give you updates as soon as we have any on that. For internal affairs, they are working on the Stoles ceremony. Of course, as a graduating senator, you are entitled to a stole per some requirements, and SGA hosts like a whole ceremony for you guys as well. And lastly, for Campus Life, Campus Life announced passage of a legislation that will be sent to the Senate floor for voting next meeting. And I'm pretty sure for those who have been listening for the past few episodes know what legislation that is, but we can get into it in the legislative updates a little later in the program. And with that being said, finally, which is arguably the most important thing, or at least for me, I'm biased, right, on this particular subject, but the biggest news that I wish to break to you guys is that there was a passage of a new legislation that took place this past Friday, and that is the Legislative Efficiency Act. I know we have been speaking to our listeners about it for weeks. We had even told you that it was going to happen this next Senate meeting, and it happened, and I'm happy to report we were able to pass it. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our guest just to ask his thoughts on this past Senate meeting or Senate meetings in general. As an FYI intern, he has gone to a Senate meeting before, and so I kind of want to give him the floor to talk about a little bit of what that was like for him.
Well, honestly, I thought it was more difficult, more complicated. Cause it sounds like a formal meeting, but it wasn't that bad. I was good. Instead, I was with also other interns, so my stress wasn't that up. But it was a good meeting. Like there's a lot of information, and I like how everyone talked about it and stuff like that.
Awesome. And I want to also use this time to throw a quick reminder that senators aren't the only ones that are able to go to these Senate meetings. Senate meetings are open to every single student at UTRGV. If you just want to see how Senate meetings are ran, or you want to be informed on what's going on around campus, I encourage every student to please attend a Senate meeting. It's absolutely free and open to the public UTRGV community, that is. So please feel free to stop by. And with that being said, I want to hand the floor over to our senator. She's been a little quiet today, but I wanted to ask what her thoughts on were, or what her thoughts on this past Senate meeting and anything that stood out to her.
Yeah, so right now, I think, and I know you said you were a little biased, I think your legislation was maybe, at least for me personally, the highlight of the meeting. I think out of all of the legislations that you've put out within, the past year, year and a half, this is probably my favorite one and the one that I am most proud to sponsor. Because I had read the whole thing. It was very clean and you made it very straight to the point. And what I loved about the meeting that you had done, you didn't just read off your legislation. They actually pulled out, the Constitution, and you went to the exact paragraph. So what you ended up doing was just fully strengthening it a lot more than it already was. So I think out of all of the ones that you've put out, I think the legislative, the Efficiency Act was probably the best one so far.
Well,
to this day, we'll see.
Thank you for that. In fact, our advisor actually came up to me after, and she said, "Skyler, that was an awesome presentation. Now we got to make sure that your intern does the same." So no pressure on you, Edgar. But yeah, I was absolutely honored to have passed it. And now it's on to the next. And so, is there anything else, Andrea, that stood out to you this past Senate meeting? Maybe anything in the committees, the fall funds being exhausted, or the internal affairs working on the stole ceremony, or maybe campus life passing the next legislation? Is there anything that stood out to you?
I think the stole ceremony right now is probably kind of a brought up topic because there are actually a lot of senators that are more than likely going to graduate. I know some of them were already asking, how does the Stoll graduation ceremony work? So we're very excited to, hopefully get some more updates on that.
Awesome. And with that being said, we are going to go ahead and transition to our next segment after a music break for you guys. And this next segment is going to, as always, be the campus updates. This is where we talk about what happened this past week and maybe any updates going around campus. And I won't get into any spoilers, but it was quite an interesting past week, and I may or may not have been involved. But we'll get into that when we head on to our music break. And with that being said, we'll be right back. And before we go, I just want to say, in honor of the passage of my legislation, I do have a song that is fitting, but you guys will hear that right now when we come back. Thank you. And we are back. And so, as promised, we will always go over the campus updates. And there was quite a lot that took place this past week. And without even getting into it, I want to just hand the floor over to Senator Andrea because she saw this and it kicked off a whole week full of memes and superheroes. And so, without further ado, Andrea, you want to go ahead and I'll hand the floor over to you.
Yes, this felt like some type of Halloween special. So this happened in, I believe, the third floor of the library. I was very calm. I was taking an exam, minding my own business. I had my AirPods on, full blast, yet I could still somehow hear it. So while I was looking at the computer, from far away, I could hear, "Spider-Man, where are you?" So I turn around and I see these two students completely dressed up, and then a third person was actually filming them, and I said, I don't know what's gonna happen, but let me record it from my end just to see what happened. And this became such a big thing, and while I was recording, I said, I'm gonna give it 2 minutes for this to go viral. By the time I opened the UTRGV students on Facebook, a bunch of people were already posting it, and I actually posted my visual of it through a comment, and it got quite a few reactions. But I don't know, I think it was the highlight of my week, and whoever those students are, please let us know when we can see the final thing, because if someone was filming it, it means it's either going to get posted on social media or on YouTube. But yeah, I got to see the whole thing in person, and it was very fun. And I know my fellow Senator Skyler here, you actually got to see them in person. You ran into them outside the library, because I know I had texted you as soon as it was happening, like, hey, I think we have an early Halloween special.
And I was just as confused as everyone else. And so I'm going to go ahead and switch to my perspective. So, of course, within the first few minutes, it goes viral. And I'm just so happy to walking into the library. And I see these two gentlemen with the Spider-Man costume, and my first reaction was, can I take a picture? I knew I had to take a picture with these new celebrities of UTRGV. So I asked for a picture with them, and I took the picture. I ended up posting it on the UTRGV students Facebook group, and it went viral as well. It had over right now it has over 166 reactions, and my favorite part, my highlight of the week, it wasn't even passing my legislation. It was that later in the week, actually, the UTRGV mascot reposted the picture with me, Spider Man, and unfortunately for the black Spider Man, he got cut off. For the UTRGV mascot replaced him. So, hey, as long as I was in the picture, I was okay, right? But I saw that and I couldn't believe that. That it had just gotten this big to where even the UTRGV mascot was in on the joke. And so it was just, it all started with these two gentlemen in a Spider-Man costume. It ended up turning into a picture, and then the whole UTRGV community just memed the heck out of it. And, I'm sure if you're a student listening, you know what we're talking about. And with that being said, I actually want to turn the floor over to Edgar. What was your reaction? How did you get wind of all this? And can you tell us a little bit of your perspective?
Well, I was just in class and I was bored and I opened Facebook and I saw like a lot of Spider-Man memes and the comments and I was like, bro, what was happening? Then I saw Andrea's comment the video and then I was like, bro, that was just crazy. The whole writing and acting, it was just like hilarious.
And I even know you even commented on my post. So you saw it as well. And just for an update, the UTRGV mascots post with me, Spider Man, and him actually has over 230 reactions as well. Everyone was in on the joke, and I got a couple of comments saying that it's a setup because actually it's actually a perfect segment to go into it. It even got bigger because the Spider-Man was actually stopped by the police, by the university police and the student union. And I know that set off a whole nother chain of reactions. So you got comments saying it was a setup. You have even comments saying that this is more of an ambitious crossover than Infinity War. This is UTRGV's Endgame. So I had a blast reading all the comments, and I have a feeling we're going to see more costumes come up as Halloween gets closer. We'll make sure to update you guys. We're ready for it. But Edgar, what was your reaction to just, I know this is your first year. Did this happen in your high school? Is this something completely new that you're being a part of?
Totally not. My high school was boring compared to the university. This experience, it was just, I was laughing all day. I was like, couldn't believe it.
Awesome. And just an important update, Spider-Man is free. He was not arrested. He's a free man, so don't worry. We don't need to be making free him in the comments. He's already free. And with that being said, I actually want to segment to the next part of this segment, which is actually has to do with the library, which I know this is where the Spider-Man thing started, but this actually relates to the Brownsville Library. So there was a couple of posts this past week in the UTRGP students chat actually concerned students about the noise level in the Brownsville Library. In fact, one of the students had even posted a video of her in the third floor. Keep in mind, this is supposed to be the most quietest floor in the library. And the noise level was actually pretty surprising. Even I had to comment, like, that is pretty loud for a third floor in the library. And a lot of students shared similar concerns on the noise level and maybe what the university or the library can do to kind of limit the noise level in a floor where it's supposed to be focused on studying. So my question is to both of you, and we'll start with Andrea. Have you experienced any issues with the noise level in the Brownsville Library or even in the Edinburgh Library? And if so, how do you address it, or how would you like to see it be addressed?
Well, I'm, currently based in Edinburgh, so actually getting to hear about the noise within the Brownsville campus, that was actually very surprising to me. I have never heard that before. And like you said, the third floor, that's always supposed to be, the quiet floor. And I listened to the exact same video that you listened to, and that sounded like something that would definitely come out of the second floor. So I guess with each year that's going by, it's starting to become a problem on both campuses, which is very unfortunate. So hopefully, we're able to do something like you said to limit the noise. And I know our vice president Juana, she meets with the library often, so hopefully we can try to find some solutions. I know for the Edinburgh library we have the quiet areas on both sides, but yeah, I would just say to students, kind of try to limit the noise a little bit, because especially right now we're kind of in midterm season. I understand a lot of students have to take their tests in the library, or maybe they even have to study, maybe they don't have access to other computers. So I think just being cautious of those types of things.
And Edgar, how about yourself? Have you experienced any of this noise level in the library, maybe when you're studying, or have you not really had that issue? What's your perspective on this?
Well, I usually don't go to the library unless I'm gonna go print something. But when I go, I mean, there is a lot of people like talking and messing around, eating and stuff like that. But I mean, uh, I don't know.
He's still first semester student, so maybe the noise level hasn't got to him yet. We will see. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next update, which I will hand the floor over to Senator Andrea to give a very important announcement regarding registration.
Yes, so right now we are in a crucial point of the semester. It is finally time to start applying for classes of spring 2025. Now, Edgar, I do want to ask you something really quickly, or more so tell you. For us UTRGV students, we start applying for classes for next semester way earlier than you think. So even starting right now within October, early November. So do you think it's better to have, planning so many months ahead?
Well, honestly, yes, because I mean, I'm not the only student. Probably there's a lot of students taking the same class, and there's not like enough space for everyone. So getting that registration early will probably help you a lot, like without like taking or procrastinating at last.
Exactly. So I do want to share some details. So currently, as of today, a lot of students did get their email saying if they had applied, well, more so if they are in the dean's list. So it went out around 9 a.m. this morning. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of, details regarding when you can actually start applying for your classes. So for those that have priority registration, it is this Friday, October 25th at 9 in the morning. For those that are seniors and post, that is going to be on Monday, October 28th. For juniors on Tuesday, October 29th. Sophomores is going to be Wednesday the 30th. And obviously for freshmen, it's going to be on Thursday, October 31st. So all of these times, they're all going to be the same at 9 in the morning.
Awesome. And then with that being said, also, I do know for a lot of first semester students, or even students that haven't used this before, there's a lot of questions on the Rate My Professor, feature. And so I know you have had a lot of experience with Rate My Professor. And so with that being said, do you kind of want to tell all of our listeners maybe some advice and how it works, and what you would tell them if they're not too familiar with the Rate My Professor feature?
Of course. So how this started, like I said, we're kind of in that process of, trying to sign up for classes. And I saw a lot of students for the past 2 days saying, guys, what do you think about this professor? What do you think about this professor? So, and a lot of them were, for example, polls or English 1301, a lot of like the basic classes. So for those that are not aware, there is a website called Rate My Professor. So you can actually see the reviews on UTRGV Professor. And this is not just for the campus. So what you're able to do is go to their website. You would type in the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley and the name of the professor. And you don't only just get ratings from, 1 to 5 stars. Students actually leave comments. Now, I will not say whether or not I have ever left a comment, good or bad, but I think it is very helpful to students. And obviously, it's good to ask, in the UTRGV students, different perspectives. But also, if there's just, maybe someone that has never heard of that professor, you can definitely go to that website to check it out. And I know I have used Rate My Professor even when I was still in high school, as I was applying to my UTRGV classes. It was one of the first things that I guess I got advised as, a brand new freshman. And especially during our orientations, the main thing I heard was use Rate My Professor. Do not try to sign up for a class, completely blind, not even knowing what you guys are. So I did want to ask you, Edgar, have you heard of Rate My Professor before?
Honestly, yes. They were talking about it like one of my friends were talking about it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I didn't know about this. So, but I will use it for the future, like in my spring classes 2025, and to not get like a bad professor.
There's two types of students at UTRHV. There are those like Andrea that go through the process and try to study their professor so they can schedule a professor that's right for them. And then you have the gamblers like myself who just whatever I get, whatever I get. It's a surprise every semester. So I would say though that it has gotten me into a lot of stressful situations, not knowing how my professor was going to be. So I would encourage everyone to take Andrea's advice on this and to look at the feature. It's very helpful. It's to help you as a student. The next segment, or the next portion of the segment we're going to go into is the FAFSA beta function and the 2025-2026 form that is coming soon. And Andrea, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yes. So I was one of the students that actually kind of freaked out when all of this went out. There was a post that was asking, when is the 2025-2026, FAFSA form going to come out? And they said October 1st. And I remember kind of freaking out saying, okay, so I'm way behind now. But I actually went to the FAFSA and it mentioned that on October 1st, a form was released to a limited group of students. So I am not aware if, maybe this is to like high school students that are going to universities, but as of right now, it is to a limited group of people. So the time that the form is actually going to be available to everyone is actually on or before December 1st. And either way, I know that whenever the form comes out or whenever it's close, to that date, it's going to blow up. UTRGV students are going to be aware of it to make sure we don't miss the deadline, because I found it very odd that, very late into the month, people were saying it was October 1st and nobody was aware. So I don't know if you guys ended up, seeing any FAFSA updates in regards to that.
I have not seen any FAFSA updates, but I'm glad you're speaking about it because I know a lot of students did have that concern. So, of course, thank you for informing the students about that. And if they have any questions, I encourage them to look at the website or to even call administration to get the help they need. Or you can always post about it in the Facebook UTRGV chats, and there's going to be a student who hopefully is able to help you out. And with that being said, before we close out on this segment, I do want to just remind you once again, early voting starts today. Very important. But not only if you're not aware of the dates, a lot of students aren't aware of the locations. And so what I went ahead and I did is if you go to the UTRGV students Facebook group chat, in the search bar, if you search my name, Senator Schuyler, my latest post is actually going to give you all the voting locations in Hidalgo County, so you can vote wherever is most convenient to you, or if you have family members, friends, fellow students that don't know where to vote, you can just refer them to that post, or you can take a screenshot of the picture I sent so you can send it to them so you can vote wherever is most convenient to you. I do know we do have a voting location here in the Edinburgh campus at the ESTAC. In case you're on campus and you have a valid form of ID, you can go ahead and vote. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and kick it to our next music break. And then when we come back, we are going to give a little bit of a spotlight of some time for legislative agendas where we can talk to our guest, Edgar, to voice any legislative thoughts or opinions he has. I do know, working with him, he does have a legislative idea that he would like to have worked on and presented, and we will give you guys the first scoop before anyone else on that when we come back. Thank you. And we are back. And with that being said, we are moving on to the legislative agendas. Now, usually we save this portion for me and Andrea, of course, the senators. But seeing that we have a special guest today, we decided to change things up a little bit. And so we are actually going to go into Edgar's legislative agenda. As an FY intern, he is scheduled to at least work on one legislative idea, either a bill or resolution for his program before the end of the program, which I believe is in early to mid-November. So with that being said, Edgar, what are your legislative agendas? What are something that you've seen on campus in your short time that you feel needs to be addressed, or what ideas do you want to see turn into reality?
Okay, so for my legislation, I have two. The first one is I wanted to recognize a professor. She's a really good professor, so I'm working on that for the semester. Also, with the water fountains, I don't know, probably I'm a person who drinks a lot of water, so some of the water fountains, the water taste is bad, like a lot of chemicals and stuff like that. So I'm working on that also within the semester to get that fixed.
Awesome. And so me and Edgar are looking forward to working on this. Of course, as his mentor, I'm going to help him as much as I can to be able to guide him through the process. But I know he'll do great. In fact, he's only supposed to do one, but him being the awesome intern that he is, student that he is, he wants to do two. He wants to do double the work because he's that committed to making a change on campus. And so we applaud him for that. Andrea, what do you think about his legislation? I know there's the courtesy one recognizing a professor he has, and the other one with the water. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm actually very excited for both of the ideas. I know the water thing, it is something that I have noticed as well. And especially today, I was in the library, and I believe this is on the third floor. There was even a sign on top of one of the water dispensers saying, like, don't throw coffee grounds or don't throw, like, boba, like the bubble things, into that thing. And we don't really know how some of those things can actually affect the water. So for you to actually, notice that as a freshman is actually very impressive. And even, wanting to recognize one of your professors this early on, and you noticing, hey, I'm actually learning so much. And I don't know, I'm very excited for those two. And I know if, you have your senator, especially Senator Howe here, you're going to be in really, really good hands. So for me personally, I'm very excited to hear both of the ideas.
We all are, and hopefully we can get those legislative agendas passed. And I know, in fact, we're just going to take a little bit of time because I know I promised I would give you guys an update on mine. So obviously we know the Legislative Efficiency Act passed, thankfully. It's still waiting for the president to sign it, but I've had some conversations with her, and I think she is going to sign it. I see no reason not to, but I think that's going to get passed, no problem. And then the next one we have is, of course, this one, right? I know me and Andrea have taken the initiative as senators to go ahead and make this for you guys, for the student body, on behalf of me and Andrea. But we really do, at least I really do, want to see this done as a SGA initiative as a whole. That way we can really push the message out that not only me and Andrea are trying to inform the student body, but it's the entire Student Government Association as well. And so with that being said, we're going to just go into a quick PSA. And when we come back, we're going to go ahead and do the outro and close this show out, get some final thoughts from Edgar and me and Andrea. And with that being said, we'll be right back. All right, we're back. I know that was a little quick, but we want to make sure we have enough time to properly close out the show. And so once again, as always, we want to thank every single listener, every single student for their time. I know you can be doing a million other things right now, but the fact that you're here with us, it means a lot to me, Andrea, and now Edgar. And so I want to kind of give Edgar, do you want to say any final thoughts to our listeners, the student body, or maybe even to us, what your experience has been so far on this episode of the SJ Insider?
Well, first, I want to thank all the listeners, also you, Skylar, and Senator Andrea, to invite me to be here. It's a pleasure, and because it's my first podcast, so, but it was a good experience. I liked it, and hopefully I can do it again.
Awesome. Yes, I would love to have you again. In fact, maybe next time I have you, it'll be Senator Edgar. And so we'll see. Only time will tell on that, but I have all the confidence in the world. We're going to continue doing our work, and yeah, hopefully we see you again. Andrea, do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Edgar, for actually taking the time to come over here. And like Skylar said, even to the listeners, you could have done a million other things. Starting Monday at 12:30, but we were really, really thankful to have you here and just getting to listen to, your ideas and your perspectives, especially your legislative agendas. To me personally, I found it very interesting. So, yeah, and, big congratulations for being the first guest on the SJ Insider.
And so being the first guest, we're going to start a tradition now. As you know, we always close out the show. We say our names, Senator Skyler, Senator Andrea, but I want you to say your name now after Andrea says her name. And after you say your name, we're all going to say, this is the SJ Insider. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close it out. Of course, this is Senator Skyler.
Senator Andrea Gaitan.
This is Edgar Benitez.
And this is the
SJ
Insider.
Insider.
And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, and we will see you all on the next episode.